charity accounts the amount of our district levy that applies to insurance. That's on the basis the insurance is essentially there to cover our activities and our interaction with the general public, or for assets the clubs might own that are used when we're dealing with the public. So that's something to consider if you've got cash flow problems and your general accounts are a bit low on funds. Another thing to be doing right now is that we need to make sure our databases are up to date with our memberships with both district and international. That's what your fees are set on. 1st July, whatever our memberships are, that's what the fees are. And if you've lost 4 members and forgotten to tell district, you'll be charged for them. Same with Rotary International, and there will be no changes. We'd also like you to add on new members so that we've got we're actually charging the clubs appropriately. For those who are first-time treasurers with Rotary, there's a couple of invoices you'll get coming in that will prove a bit painful first time round. One of them is our Rotary International invoice. That is paid to an Australian bank account, but we have to convert the bill into US dollars. And you convert it at a rate set by district on a monthly basis. So if you just Google Rotary exchange rates, more than likely you'll get yourself directly into the Rotary website. It's basically public information, and you just make the appropriate adjustment. The other one you have, I think, is Club Runner, which is paid to a Canadian bank account in US dollars. That'll be a pain for you if you don't have electronic banking. There is a credit card option. Clubs don't have credit cards, but their treasurers or somebody else who's feeling fairly generous in lending their club money for a few days might choose to pay that invoice by credit card and reimburse themselves. Towards the end of the year, many of our clubs will be sending off money to foundation as we pay our Polio Plus or whatever we've promised to pay to foundation for that year. That doesn't have to be that hard. It's a bit tricky getting into the Rotary International website or to get the forms downloaded. But there is one form. If you're one of those clubs that's actually collecting money from a number of members and then remitting that money to district as a block, you don't have to fill out multiple forms. There's a single form you can fill out that detail your club details and put in the names of your club members, and the rest of the paperwork will be dealt with at district level, or at international level. And then, of course, there's 2 different accounts we pay to. So one of them will be an account for clubs, for which we get no tax deduction for. If members need or wish to have a tax deduction for their contributions they're making, it goes into a separate account, one that's entitled to allow tax deductions for donations. Bit of a reminder that we need to keep our funds separate. Money we raise from ourselves as members of the club generally go into our general account for running the club and its basic expenses. Monies we raise from fundraisers, which I believe includes Bunning barbecues, although there is some disagreement out there on that one. But certainly anything where we've had a fundraiser that's promoting money for Rotary or for a cause, we need to be kept, that needs to be kept in a separate account that is just for funds that we're going to pass on for other purposes, for charitable works. One thing you'll note is, although we've made a huge effort to keep district fees down, we're being hit pretty hard at district level on increases in our insurance premiums. So the amount we're paying, I think in the last 4 years, has risen from about a bit over 30,000 to about 50,000, we believe, this year. And we're doing that on declining membership. So even if district can do a great job at reducing its costs, it's going to still be hammered on the insurance side. So we'll probably all be struggling for funds over the next year or two. But I think at the same time, we're also going to be struggling to meet that insurance commitment. And for those that don't know, our insurance is really done Australia-wide. We're part of an Australia-wide pool. All Rotary clubs are together. So if we've got low claims experience, our premiums should be coming down. If we've got high claims experience, they're going up. The raising cost is probably something to do with raising costs of paying out claims. That doesn't mean we shouldn't make claims. It just means perhaps more natural disasters, more things going wrong. Another question we're frequently asked is about the bookkeeping program that district recommend clubs use. We don't, and we don't recommend the bank account either. It's whatever works. If you're a club with treasurers experienced in using, whether it might be MyOb, QuickBooks, 10, or any of the other myriad of programs, or even an Excel spreadsheet, then as long as it's being done, it doesn't matter what you're using. It's all about efficiency, and there's no point getting a program set up if your treasurer can't use it, because you're just setting your treasurer up to fail. It's got to be something that works for the clubs. So it really comes down to what the club treasurer's role is for the year and the things we have to do as treasurers, and that's report back to the club at board level what our balances are and our transactions are, and what payments are going through. At the end of each fundraiser, tallying up how much we've made or lost and reporting back to the club on that. And our role is really a general information role. And some of you very soon will be receiving your Rotary district invoices, and it'd be really great if you pay it the next day, but all the others can wait if you've got cash flow problems. I didn't intend this session to be a lengthy one. Some of you will have sat through a fairly lengthy morning session. It was just to give you a few tips going forward. Jim Wilson may well have some comments he'd like to throw in. Right, some comments he wants to throw in. I see messages coming up with Jim. Did you want to say anything, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the insurance is one that has had, I suppose, for the benefit of the club treasurers, has had a lot of discussion at district level, and the scrutiny that we put the expenses under to keep the fees low is quite onerous in terms of having to justify what the expenses are. So you can take back to the clubs that, you know, we do very seriously take, you know, how members' money is spent very seriously. So the real issue, as John has pointed out, has been the insurance. We also, for the benefit of some of you, do split the insurance between clubs that have very specific assets above the limits, and some clubs get an extra insurance premium to pay. So there's quite a lot of equity in the way that insurance is allocated. But I would take John's advice and look very seriously at including the insurance premium into your project account. So that's just on that one. But we're underspent this year, thank goodness, to in some respects for COVID-19, for no meeting costs and catering and all that sort of good stuff. So that's worked out well.
That's quite right, and that's part of our budgeting process for next year, because we're not going to have these face-to-face meetings, and Zoom's a far cheaper delivery process for all of us, because we don't have to leave home to attend it. The same with district doesn't have to pay for venues, catering, or any other costs. Our general admin costs should be a lot lower. The only costs that will be increasing will be our Zoom licenses and our electronic access.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see going forward whether we see more of these Zoom type electronic meetings and far less of the face-to-face, because they do the same job. You just miss out on a bit of networking, I guess. Is there any questions from anybody?
Rick asked a question around distress on distressed members and what we're going to do about RI and district dues, and what the process for that is. So I know there's been discussions with the DGs around that, but we probably need to put out a more formal process to the presidents and secretaries and treasurers around what that entails. But in the past, it's generally been handled by recommendations to your club board, in confidence around the particular members' issue. And the first port of call should be your club reserves from there, and then it can be referred to district and go from there. But I think John and Mark will put out more formal advice on that, I think, would be the way to go.
Something will come out with the invoices. We're certainly, although I was effectively joking about paying district the next day, we would expect a number of clubs will not have the money available to pay us immediately. And we're quite happy to enter into any arrangement, whether it's maybe 4 payments a year, monthly payments, some now, some when the money comes in. We'll do it on a club-by-club basis. It's really just getting in touch with myself or Mark or district secretary Carol Crew, and we'll take it on its merits. Some clubs will have no problems financially; they've got reasonable reserves to come back on, and there will be others who have fairly empty bank accounts, and we don't want to see any club failing simply because it can't pay its dues. As for oh yes, Patrick, unmute yourself, Patrick. If you go down the bottom, bring your cursor down to the bottom bar to the left, you'll see a mute symbol.
Push.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Push
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. John, yeah, look, I'm the treasurer of the Yarram Club, and I've had that position for a few years. And I think my observation will be we're getting incredible pushback from the members at the moment on the fees. And I think part of that is perhaps not understanding the fees, because for the district we get a breakdown. I think we see the insurance broken out as a one-liner in the invoice. And I think perhaps once or twice I've seen a summary of a high level of the district dues. I think it would help if we just understood that a bit more, particularly if there's any money that the district collects that is going to district projects, so people understand, what amount of our fees are going back to the community. With the Rotary International dues, we just get a one-liner, and I think it would really help people understand this.
Yeah.
For our club, we've only got 20 members, and we're struggling to hold members. In fact, we've lost members recently over this. And I think Rotary, you're talking about shrinking numbers, we really struggle once we start talking about fees to get members to join. And the more we can do to obviously cap the fees, and you are, from what Tim was saying, there's been a lot of work put into that. I think it's also making sure people understand the makeup of the fees. Also, one final point, Rotary International give us 2 bills a year, but the district give us 1 bill a year, and similarly Rotary Down Under give us 2 bills a year. So, just a little bit of consistency there for people to understand. Hopefully that's clear.
We do consistently give you 1 bill a year every year from Rotary District. I understand your point there. Really, none of the money that goes to district goes to the community. It all comes back into running district. And probably, I think it's about 1/3 or more, I haven't got the numbers in front of me, of the account that you receive is insurance.
Yeah.
So insurance is the biggest cost.
The other cost is for the training associated with the DGs, right? The DG train, right? So we're constantly got so if I just take the expenses, if you've got the current DG and his expenses that run through, you know, just visiting and whatever it might take to administer the district. And it is a big district, right? There's a lot of travelling involved and from there.
Sure.
You then get down to your DGE, you know, next in line, and there's a certain amount of training associated for him, and then your DGEN. So we call that the DG train, if you like. There's quite a bit of money spent on that training, right? For things like institute that they've got to, these are mandatory things they've got to attend. We've got to, you know, the Zone Institute, etc. So that's if you like, another third of where the money sort of goes, and that includes running any additional training, like running this assembly, things of that nature. So a lot of the money, it goes into the training, a lot into the insurance, very little into you know, committees and things of that nature. There's a bit in PR, right? But and the budget is presented to your incoming presidents each year. So your incoming president ought to have a reasonably detailed breakup of what it is. But I mean, I imagine John or I could share with you if you're really interested, Patrick, in the detail around what it is.
Yeah, I'll have a check to our incoming president.
Yeah, but of recent times, Ryla and Rypen have started to come in as district projects, right? You know, and YEP is a good example. YEP is handled as and we do the same thing as clubs do. We have a separate bank account for YEP, and that's a project account, and that sort of stays over there, and we keep it separate from the district. Ryla and Rypen have come in this year, and between John and I, we've got to work out what we do with them, but they are break-even basic projects. So they've got to fund themselves, and we watch, you know, where their project is, etc. The only other one that comes in is Ride the Conference, and that's done as a separate project. So same standard we apply to clubs applies into the district accounting as well.
Just a minute, Gordon, just before we move on from Pat's questions, one of your questions, Pat, was members struggling to pay fees. There is a friend of Rotary designation that you can move an active member onto that list, and you don't pay a district fee or a Rotary International fee for them. They do get insurance cover. It's particularly suited for older members who have perhaps, you know, retired and got to the stage where they're not doing a lot of hands-on work, but still want to attend the occasional meeting. You're limited to the number. Can you remember, Jim, is it 5 or 10 they're limited
Something
to?
like that, to 15%, I think it is.
15%.
If you look at the new rules that they've put out in the bylaws, there's a number of membership classifications: associate, friend of Rotary, etc. That, to John's point, can be used. So actually getting the new rules done and working through it is quite important, because there's no for a friend of Rotary, there's no RI dues, you know, etc. No district, etc. But they can change at any time, so they can re-uplift to it and things like that. So have a look at the new rules, because they're quite give you quite a bit of flexibility.
Thank you.
Are you on the same topic or something new there, Rick?
Just clarification, because at the PET session we were particularly told that there would be some way of getting a reduced fee for members who are. We've got 2 members we fund ourselves in the club, but if we could still pay their full dues, of course, to the RI and district, But if we got some relief there, that would be good. And I thought there was a way of doing that, apart from...
Well, I think Tim Moore flashed a message up that it's really for members that are doing very little. So they're meant to be inactive and not voting was Tim's...
No, I think Rick's is a different... Rick's is, he's about distressed members in distress.
Oh, just pure financial distress.
And pure financial assistance back to the club. And that's why I say I think you've got to put that note. I think the process back from Mark back to the presidents about if this is the case, how we're going to, that was one we discussed at the district board around how we then look after members and provide assistance to the clubs. So I think to Rick's point, we need to send in the process which starts with, I've got some members, how do I actually get some financial relief coming through? So although we've done it in concept, we haven't actually done the detail.
Okay. We'll need to hear how many, we're limited to how much relief we can give as a district. Certainly be interested in hearing from all treasurers sooner than later if they believe they've got financial members who are in financial distress.
But that was that question, John, that we discussed around using the reserves, that we've got, for clubs being able to also dip into the reserves, because at the end of the day, it's members' money, right?
That's right.
And so this is the rainy day that we talk about to assist members. The issue, Rick, is that we've got to be able to do it equitably. So how do we then work through a process which said, do we limit it to 2 members per club or on request, etc.? So that detail, I think, is the bit we've got to work through. And between John and I, we'll take that back and we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And another...
Gordon? Oh, sorry.
My butting in again. We've expecting some money back from Ride to Conference because we didn't have any exchange student go on that. I believe we're getting $400 or something back there. And also,
I've seen a whole lot of refunds go through the bank account.
Yep.
But you'd have to contact Chris Morris, right, about that directly.
And Ride to Reef isn't. Oh, sorry. Rock to Reef is the other refund we're supposed to be getting.
Yes, Rock to Reef. The refunds went out on Friday. Of 3,000 a person. I think your club. Excuse me.
I think your club actually. We missed that club, John.
On purpose. I think your club actually gets the refund back to the club. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there was one.
Oh, there is one anyway.
There were 3. There were 2 or 3 that went back to clubs. Rick, you're with Dramana, RCD. Yep, that was definitely done on Friday. Get it Monday, Tuesday.
We had 2 international transfers and 4 to Australian bank accounts. So the Australian bank accounts, they should all be in the receiving accounts by Monday.
Yeah.
The international ones, look, they can be very quick. They can be Monday. 2 weeks.
They'll go Monday.
Yeah.
To Treasury.
They like to keep their funds as long as they can before they transfer them, don't they? We know.
Well, it depends on the banking system at the other end. If the IBAN accounts seem to be more responsive than the ones that use the SWIFT banking system, which is also known as BIC. Sorry, Gordon.
Had a question, John.
He did. Yes, he's been very patient. Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you, guys. It's the old question, you don't know what you don't know. At a district level, do you actually get advised what the various members' fees are for the district, and without going through, if it's confidential, what the fees are for each group? I was just wondering, as a principle, from what you've seen, if you do receive that information, what has been occurring for the new year in regards to where clubs are setting their fees? Like, we've set our own, and I was just interested to understand how other clubs are going and how they're setting them.
Well, clubs don't report what they're charging in fees to districts, so we don't have that information. It would probably be useful for other clubs to know what everybody is charging.
Yeah.
Most of the clubs will have either set their fee at the final board meeting if they've had a changeover with the new board and the old board, or the first board in the new financial year are the two times you'd expect it to go through board, with some discussion having gone on beforehand.
That's all occurred at our club. I was just curious about how other clubs are going, and so I don't know if it's something that should be confidential, but from our point of view, we're maintaining for where we were last year.
Gordon, the district fees are down by $7 or $8 from where they were last year. And given the significant increase in insurance, they probably should have gone up by $5 or $6, right? Yeah. So there's a net save, given where we are with insurance, of call it $13, $14. Mm-hmm. I would expect if my club treasurer came to me and said he's putting his fees up, I'd be going, "What are you doing?" Right? So I could make a case for holding club fees, as is, right? I could make a case for that, or I could make a case to lower the fees. Yeah. But I couldn't make a case for putting club fees up unless there was some extraordinary event occurring in the club. So, on a club-by-club basis, as I said, we are a member-based organisation, and so, it's members' money that we've got to look at. Yep. So, I'd be looking at, as I said, club-by-club. If my club treasurer came to me and said, we're putting the fees up, I would give him a very hard time.
My expectation of increases was not there, I can assure you, but it was more the point of what clubs in general are doing.
Yeah, we should be avoiding increases. Rotary International will also keep their fees where they are, but what may hurt us is what the exchange rate is at the time we pay it compared to last year, obviously.
Yeah, understood.
Gordon, I suggest you take it up with your assistant governor that maybe next time he has a cluster meeting that all the clubs in your cluster discuss their fees if they so desire.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Adds weight, I think, when people are setting them, that this is the general principle that's been adopted.
Yeah. Don't forget that a lot of the clubs vary around their expense base, right? Yeah. And I know in our club we have some corporate sponsors that assist, and so we get a little bit of assistance there. But a lot of the clubs have different views around their cost makeup in things like their how they communicate to their members, whether they do a lot of printing or not, whether the parts of the uniform are included or not in their club fees, etc. So you do need to have a look at what is the makeup of the club fees.
When you're talking about corporate sponsorships, so that it goes to the club account as well as to project?
In our case, yes, it does. Right. And that was when we did the formal agreement with the corporate sponsor. Mm-hmm. We agreed that they could have a certain amount of membership, if you like. And so that membership component of the corporate sponsorship is part of covering those costs as if they were members of, right? So they're the sort of, when you sort of get into that corporate, they're the sort of things you got to work through that how it works. But the vast majority of it ends up going to our project account, but some monies do go to offset that corporate membership.
Right. We've got other questions. Yes, Zoe.
Hi, Treasurer John. Hello to all treasurers of District 9820. Thank you again for allowing me to be here today to participate. Just to add further information as to what I believe it was Treasurer Patrick who asked about the Rotary International fees. So actually the RI fees, we use them to support our members, our clubs, and our districts. If you actually get the chance, you can check out how it is being distributed via Rotary International's annual report. Yeah, so you can see there how much went into program and member services, how much went to IT, information technology, to governance, and I think there was a portion for international operations, which is us from the international office in Parramatta, New South Wales, how much went to finance, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks.
Further questions at all? Andrew, is that your hand up, or is it just no?
Just playing with the mute button.
Or fiddling with the camera. He's up to something there.
It's Tim Carswell from Narry Warren here.
Yes, Tim.
Our president, we've had a couple of late changes in the last couple of months, so I've not been informed of any of communication possibly from district about the fees or where they are this year. Is it possible for someone to say what they are on a per member basis?
115, isn't it, Jim?
115. Yeah. There are 122 last year, 115 this year.
And out of that 115, the insurance is what, about 34, 35? You said it went up.
Let me see if I can find it.
Jim, try to get it up. I'm not going to try to get it up here, but it is about a third, I think, of the.
It's about right. Let me just
see
if I can see the email.
I think it was about
$44.70.
Sorry?
$44.70 for the insurance.
There you
go. Yeah.
Right.
So
thanks.
So you can see out of the 115, it's more than a third. It's 40%. You know,
yeah.
40%. So that insurance is the big one.
It's a big concern. If it keeps lifting at this rate, it's starting to really hurt us in what we've got to raise just to operate as clubs.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you listen to Mark Huddleston, you know, and he says make service the centre, right, rather than the meetings. I mean, when the cost base is, you know, 40% of your cost is around the insurance to do, and you do need insurance to do service projects. So it becomes quite an impost on doing service. So we should make our members just aware that insurance is an important part, and you know, and that's where, you know, you talk about, you know, what does district do for you? There's quite a few quiet achievers, and our district insurance officer does a lot of work with the insurance companies. I mean, when I got the insurance premium, it runs to about 30 pages, right? And there's a lot of work that he's put into it to ensure that all the different classes of insurance that we need to have. I mean, one of the little facts, you know, Rotary is one of the very few organisations in the world that has the insurance that we can cover YEP with the, what do they call it, John? The, I'm blank with the name now.
This is the basically the harassment section.
Sexual harassment
and bullying and that type of thing.
And that's because of our processes and that. But the insurance officer, you know, kudos to him. It's a lot of work. You know, you talk about the amount of time they spend. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to ensure that our insurance is effective, and that's done on a national basis as well. So they do a lot of good work for us.
Any further questions?
I'm not a comment. If you're involved in a fellowship which allows you to travel overseas to enjoy a fellowship meeting somewhere, I've done that a few times with a ski fellowship, and Rotary Insurance pays for it because I attend Rotary meetings over there at the fellowship. So there's a wonderful little side benefit from the Rotary.
That's exactly right, Rick.
Yeah, as Jim and I both know, and Sally would know as well, you just got to make sure if you're travelling overseas or involved in any projects that you advise the insurance officer first to make sure you got the cover. Because there is usually, as you would expect, a form, and it has to go somewhere. So
it's easy when you know how.
Easy
when you know how, yes.
So on the great scale of things, you know, where do insurance companies fit between politicians, you know, dentists, and, you know,
real estate agents?
And real estate agents, exactly right.
They're down there with lawyers.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else at all?
I mean, don't be unafraid. By the way, don't be unafraid to contact John, as I pointed John.
Jim finishes 30th of June. He doesn't answer his emails after that.
That's, if you do need assistance on really any matter, we're here to help. You know, if you've got any club, I know I've been working with some of the clubs on their issues around. They had no reserves. What do we do? Can you review my accounts to do the right split between club monies and you know, project, etc. We've done some work there. If you've got any issues, we're here to help. Here to help.
Okay. Well, if there's no further comments, we'll close the meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Sally?
Sorry, Treasurer John, if I may just do one more plug, if you
Of course.
allow it. To my dear treasurers, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. For those who don't know me, I'm Sally Furto from Rotary International's regional office in Parramatta. So once you receive the Rotary International's invoice, which will be available probably middle of July or third week of July, it will be my name whom you're gonna see in there, so you can bother me if you have questions absolutely about the RI fees. Just a bit of a request. When you do send your payments or even contributions electronically or via EFT, if you can just enter the correct or the unique payment description, that will be very helpful, because that's one of the issues that we do encounter when processing contributions or recording payments, unidentified deposits. So yeah, so if you can just, if you don't know your club number, you can just put in your club's name, but just omit those words such as Rotary Club off, because you know how bank system usually have limited fields in terms of the characters that you can enter. So yeah, that will be a great help for us to record your contributions or dues payment correctly and promptly.
Yeah, the District Treasurer's Retirement Fund has a lot of
unidentified.
Unidentified. And it costs, if we're going to do a formal trace via our bank, it would cost us like $18 regardless of the amount.
Yeah, it's a lot of time, and it's time too, Sally. It's
exactly.
A lot of time.
It's like 4 to 6 weeks before they can come back to you.
And in some of the cases, you're tracking down relatively small amounts of money for projects, you know, and because we have exactly the same issue at a district level, trying to track down, you know, what's been sent to us.
Yes.
If in the description, rather than put, you know, the Rotary Club of, etc., etc., if you run out of letters, it's a lot better to put, say you're Frankston, it's a lot better to put Frankston RC, because it gives Sally and us a clue as to where it's actually come from.
Yeah.
And if there's two fields, if you can whack the invoice number in there, we get really excited. So,
because we have Frankston, Frankston North, Frankston Sunrise.
Yeah, that's right.
Bairnsdale Sunrise, and all you get is bang. Oh wow!
Exactly. And it happens with the contributions as well to the Rotary Foundation.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to say, Sally, I'm not treasurer this year, but I'm incoming president. But I've dealt with you for some years, and you've been very patient with me when I was learning my way through the Treasury's portfolio. So thank you in the past. I'm sure you'll support us in the future too.
Thank you. No worries. Our office everyone in our office would be happy to assist anyone from all clubs.
Yeah, particularly the foundation invoices, because it's so easy to send it to the wrong place. And Sally and her group are very helpful. They'll send you the forms if you need them sent, if you can't find them. They'll double check to make sure where the account you're sending it into is the right one for the purpose. We have these people resources that we sometimes overlook, and a simple phone call or email message can make such a difference for both ourselves and the party at the other end.
Yeah, and also from time to time, our office do sends out emails or guidelines for club officers. Like we do have a resource guide where you can find almost everything that you need. So I encourage you, if you don't have a My Rotary account yet, or you don't have an email account registered in there, if you can do so, that would be very helpful to all of us.
Gordon? Yep.
Yes, Gordon?
John, could I just ask one other question? And I'm just interested whether any of the clubs have ever done this, especially when times are tight. And look, it's not that circumstance for our club, but it's an interesting point. Just like you're able to spread corporate sponsorship between the club account and the project account, with PR, has anybody ever, like with our traditional accounting of it, we actually put PR expenses as a club expense? To the extent that the PR can actually be advertising projects as well.
It's project.
Yeah.
It's always been the case. So if you're advertising your Deb Balls, for example, that is a legitimate project cost.
Okay.
But it's never been an issue.
When it's more generic though, so
when you say it's generic, what do you mean?
So like PR, when you talk about a PR budget, it can cover everything from signage that you're putting up in the local area to, yes, advertising a particular event or whatever. And when you're setting the budget up at the start, you're never quite sure how it's all going to fall. But just the whole point of actually spreading that expense across the two centres, to me, makes a lot of sense. To the extent a certain proportion is all about advertising a particular fundraising, or letting the community know of a particular project you're doing.
I think anything that comes down to a particular project or spending within the club that goes to a community purpose, that is clearly in the charity area. Yep. If you were to advertise purely for membership, then maybe that really belongs in the admin area. And there's probably a number of transactions that fall in the grey zone, and you've just got to work out where they substantially fall as to where you put them.
Yeah, I mean, if you were getting generic banners of Rotary for for use outside, so take your marquee that you get painted, for example, people say, our club's always treated that as a project expense, even though it's got just Rotary on the, been printed on the marquee. So it goes down to this, what's it being used for, right? And then just do the simple trace back. So it's a little bit like the insurance. The insurance is, primarily used for service projects. That's why you can legitimately call it a service or project cost. So, but do the simple thing, Gordon, is just do the due diligence on it. Just work through, ask the questions, the way through.
The challenge isn't at the point when the expense is made. The challenge is when you're doing your budget and when you're sort of pre-assuming what its purpose is going to be at the time at the start of the year. And so, from my point of view, allocating a little bit against both centres to the extent that
you're right. Be okay from a budget viewpoint.
Yep.
No drama. It comes at the time when you actually make the commitment and want to raise it. Then some particular, my test has always been, which of my committee chairmen will pick up the expense, right? So if I've got a bill for PR, and I go to my chairman and says, I want to put this into your cost center, and he says, no, well, not me. It's a pretty good. They're dodging the bullet, or if I can't argue that through, then that's a pretty good test of where it should be. So,
understand.
But the other point I'd give you is you got to hound your secretaries and your presidents to keep the data that goes into RI up to date. I mean, we are becoming more and more reliant on that. We had 3 cases this year where clubs came back to me and said, "Oh no, our membership's not this; it's now that." I went, "Too late. Door is shut." You know, 30 June is 30 June. End of story. So you do need to make sure that they have done it and done it up to date.
And oddly enough, it only ever happens when they've got too many members, not too few.
Yeah. Looking for a rebate.
That's right. All the other sessions are finished. We can wind ours up now. Wish you all well in the coming year, and hopefully we all survive COVID financially intact and with full memberships. Let's hope for the best in the year to come. I'll say goodbye to you all. Thank you for coming today.